Hi, and welcome to Season 2 of the Team Deakins Podcast, a collection of informal conversations between Roger and James Deakins and a guest. We never know where the conversation will take us, so listen in and see where it goes. Today we're speaking with a rigging key grip. His credits are many and include No Country for Old Men, Fantastic Four, Blade Runner 2049, and Minority Report. We're pleased to welcome Charley Gilleran. Charley, we're really happy that you're doing this. Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Thank you guys for having me. It's quite an honor to be asked to be on your podcast, quite frankly. So thanks.
Well, we'd like to start with our usual question, which is, how did you get to where you are today? Were you always piling things on top of each other and seeing if you could put something on top of that? Were you building things as a kid? Did you start on a different path? What's your story?
I read you're a best boy. I didn't know this, but I read somewhere that you were a best boy electrician on your first film, Campus Man. So anyway, tell us how you...
Did you say he was also an actor in it?
I'm an actor as well.
See, that's the problem. We do go into the past.
You, I never knew. Yeah.
No, I've been around a little bit, no doubt about it. Well, a little bit about me. I was actually born in Harlem, and I grew up on 100.
Wow.
I grew up on 114th Street, which was essentially frat row for Columbia University. So basically, at like age 6, my playground was the Columbia campus. And around 1968 is when the riots hit at Columbia. And that was what I was hanging around with when I was a young kid. So obviously chaos, it's in my upbringing, quite frankly. So
hence the film industry.
Exactly. It was a good introduction, a nice little riot followed by, getting into the film business. So I went to high school in Montclair, New Jersey, and graduated there in 1980. And I had a girlfriend, Heidi, who I dated for quite a few years. And her dad was an accomplished cameraman and director for ABC and did lots of documentaries. And he kind of taught me, he did teach me how to load SR-16 magazines. And I was living the dream then. I didn't even know it. It was so much fun. But alas, a few years later, I broke up with Heidi. So I kind of no longer had those family connections. And just started trying to get jobs as a PA in New York, commuting in from New Jersey, and did a couple semesters of college at Montclair State College, and there were bills to pay and survival. Well, that was the name of the game, was surviving. But I did manage to do they allowed me at the radio station at Montclair State. I actually got to do what I call the Frank Zappa hour once a week. I would just pick my favorite Zappa songs and play them on the radio. So, and backstage in high school, things like that, and just started working my way into the movie business by PA jobs. I ended up on, how would I say it, some really bad industrial jobs and met a few gaffers, namely this one guy, his name was, he's since passed, but Phil Devonshire was his name. And he started getting great jobs, and I was like his third electrician, and we worked with Mike Negrin. Yeah, we did all kinds of, Huey Lewis on the News, Talking Heads videos. And, it was rock videos were I started in on that. But you get one job, you meet more people. And then I studied like crazy because I wanted to get into NABIT. Got into NABIT 15, probably around 1985, I guess. And, I just started.
Did you get in as an electrician or a grip?
I did. I got in as an electrician. That's kind of where I started. And I really didn't care for carrying that heavy cable. And that four wasn't much fun, I can tell you that. But I think one cool story, though, is these jobs were going on. There were smaller jobs in New York at the time because there were either non-union or NABIT jobs. I got hired as a gaffer / key grip on a music video. And we were shooting on 23rd Street, if I recall. And I was directed to lay a bunch of track down and curve track over this curb, and starting to do that. And then I hear this noise from up on the 8th floor, and some guy stuck his head out. And he goes, "Hey, you're doing that all wrong." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And I said, "Well, why don't you come down here and help me?" And that turned out to be Mitch Lillian. That's
No.
that's how I met Mitch Lillian for my first.
Oh my God!
First meeting with him. So it's really kind of a cool story. So
Yeah. Wow, I never heard that.
so I continued on in New York for a couple more years, and around 1990, I kind of grew sick of New York. It's just such a tough town to work in. Logistically, driving from New Jersey, a car gets towed. It's just tough. Pushing carts down streets and hitting potholes, and just I finally said, I'm out of here. I'm moving to L.A. I want to work on some big movies. I don't really have a chance in New York because I had just gotten into the IA, and when it merged with NABIT, there were no big jobs available for me. So I picked up and went to California and never looked back.
And at this point, were you an electrician still, or had you moved on to gripping?
I had moved on to gripping. Like Roger asked the story of the movie Canvas Man. I was the best boy electrician on that. And after I did that movie, I got another one, which was Francis Kenny was the cinematographer on that. And it was Heathers.
Oh, yeah.
It was a great movie at the time. And I became very well, being the best boy electrician, I was working with the grips, and I became very good friends with the key grip, this guy, Thad Wadley, who I'm still very good friends with. And he got another job like 6 months later in North Carolina. It was The Handmaid's Tale. And he asked me to be the best boy. And I was like, I don't know anything about gripping. He goes, you'll learn. You'll figure it out. So off I went to North Carolina as my first best boy grip job, and just cranked out 80 some odd movies after that. It's been a long, crazy road, no doubt.
How did you work with Mitch? What was Mitch Lillian, who shouted down at you from up above like God? What was he doing at the time, and how did your relationship with him evolve while you were in New York, or didn't it?
It really didn't. I mean, we were just acquaintances. I'm still an electrician. I did a couple of commercials that he was the key grip on, and his wife was an electrician at the time, Lynn. And I worked on a bunch of commercials and stuff with her too. And we just we've always been friendly with each other. And I guess really the first thing that I did with Mitch was with you. And when you guys came out of the bayou and the swamp on Oh Brother, and we came back to LA, we did all the Los Angeles stuff on Oh Brother. So that was my first connection back with Mitch.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing about New York and NABIT and that, it seemed like quite a small community, like you're talking about. Everybody knew each other. It was when I met James, it was like James knew everybody in New York. It was like a little family.
Oh yeah.
But how was it then moving to LA? Did you have connections out here in LA?
Just that key grip Thad, who I did a couple movies with, and then you take chances when you're at that age, and you just wing it. And I was like, I need a change, and moved out here, and we nailed some pretty good jobs together. And I kind of broke away from him as he started going in like a camera operating and tried to start becoming a cinematographer. I went away and just kept on with the gripping, and just kind of like fell into the rigging thing. For me, the rigging offered, and it still does. It offers you an opportunity to control your hours, your destiny a little bit more. When you're on the production side, you get in a 15-passenger van at 5 a.m, and you never know when you're coming home. So the rigging really worked for me. It just gave me more control over my life, if you will. And also,
can you describe to people that might not know what a rigging grip is? Yeah, what your responsibilities are. And
sure. Basically, you're responsible for everything that nobody else wants to do.
Yeah, that's
well put.
Broad remit.
It kind of is. I mean, you're in charge of all your rigging crews. Reporting directly to the production manager regarding money and so forth, and and following the vision of the key grip, the gaffer, the cinematographer, and executing those visions that they have. Whether it's installing lights or camera rigs and camera movement, and just kind of executing all those pre-building cranes and having them ready for when they get there to shoot. The list is it's kind of endless.
So it must be so much better when you're working with a movie that has done a lot of prep and a lot of organization ahead of time, right?
You mean like a Coen Brothers movie? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe like that.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, there's definitely that. The prep is definitely a huge thing. I mean, a well-prepared movie. I mean, things are going to change, of course. And, you got to be ready for the change and have a B plan almost all the time. So
when are you normally brought in to prep as a rigging gaffer? Is it after the grip? How much time do you have in prep?
usually about the same amount of time as the key grip. Start doing scouts and hatching plans, and like in Roger's case, being handed the book of drawings that he's already done for you.
Yeah, right.
Especially the ones that like defy gravity. You're like, wow, how are we going to pull this off?
I wanted to ask you that. I mean, it must be a fine line between kind of, a cinematographer's wish and a producer's kind of pocketbook, and reality. Yeah, you can't rig in the sky,
Yeah, right.
Regarding the pocketbook and the vision, I've always had my loyalty is always to the cinematographer, because my job is never to say no. My job is to simply execute the plan. And sometimes people are ordering filet mignons and they want to pay for hot dogs, and you got to find something in the middle there somewhere.
Yeah.
But are you ever just given a concept? This is what we'd like to do, but they don't really tell you how it should be done, and you've got to figure out ways that could possibly work and then bring it back and say, what if we do this?
Yeah, I mean, I've almost gotten myself fired a few times by coming up with some crazy ideas. Like this one job, they wanted it's a 2-story tent, and they wanted to tented, untented, tented, to go back and forth like 6 times. I was like, well, great. We'll just get a Sikorsky helicopter, build a giant truss rig, and 2 miles away in a park and just fly the thing in. Nobody wants to hear that, though. So quickly it became, all right, let's shoot certain scenes night for night. And when we had to go day for night, we just tented once because of the budgetary restraints. But yeah, it's a process of getting there sometimes. There's so many people to please that you can't please them all.
Yeah.
So while you're on that subject, Mitch will tell you this one. We tented this house once so that we could shoot inside during the day, our night scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time we came to use it at the end of the week, we were already starting at like work at 4 p.m. So by the time we were ready, it was night anyway. So this whole house was tented for. Anyway, yeah, it's kind of crazy business, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a crazy business, no doubt.
What were some of the early experiences? I mean, I guess I could say you were really lucky early on. You tied up with Steven Spielberg and did Amistad and AI and Minority Report, Terminal, War of the Worlds, Munich. I mean, that's quite a run. Was that a constant crew that you were working with? So you're always going back to work with the same team, or was it as a producer hiring you, or what?
No, that was all those runs were with when Janusz was the cinematographer for Spielberg. But yeah, that was a lot of the same people. Dave Devlin was Janusz's gaffer, except for on Munich, it was his gaffer became Mike Bauman because Dave wasn't available. And yeah, that was definitely quite a run, because all those films were literally, a lot of them were just stacked right on top of each other. So you'd be finishing one and scouting the next one. And yeah, that was pretty wild. I got to say, Munich, hands down, one of the wildest movies I've been involved in.
Wild in what way? I think it was one of my favorites of Spielberg's, actually. Yeah. I think probably for me, it's his best film.
Yeah, just wild in the way of like logistics. I mean, you go into a job like that, you go to Malta and you're told, we're shooting in Malta for like a month, and then we're going up to Budapest, and Budapest is going to play as Rome, France, and like European cities. And, the whole thing was, okay, when we go from Malta to Budapest, nobody's bringing any equipment whatsoever. It's all going to come from Germany and get trucked in. So we're leaving everything behind. So fast forward 6 weeks later, there's 2 of the Ukrainian largest cargo transport planes landing in Malta to take everything from Malta to Budapest. It's just that's what I mean by the crazy. Like talk about a plan could change. Boy, that plan changed a lot.
Yeah. How do you prep for a film like that, going to different locations but different countries? I mean, what do you do for I mean, it's probably better that the cargo planes took the equipment you had in Malta, because everybody then knew what you had in Budapest, rather than you having to order a separate package from Germany, hoping it would arrive, but also hoping that it had everything in it that you needed.
Well, that one really did get complicated, because we took a rigging package that Kevin Fahey, the rigging best boy, he prepped all that stuff in containers to go over to Malta. And while we were in Malta, we loaded into like this beautiful Audi Mercedes truck. And literally about a week before we were headed to Budapest, some of the local rigging grips loaded the truck one day, and they loaded up a fully stocked generator on the tail end of it, which combusted and burst into flames, and the entire truck burned to the ground, and everything in it just singed, gone. Rigging package gone. And then I mean, we didn't have one pulley left. There was like not a rope or not a piece of speedo. So we recovered from that and had another truck package sent from the U.S. and the U.K. and off to Budapest we went.
And how far in advance are you prepping a set or a location? Or does that just vary on the way people work? I mean, somebody like Steven Spielberg, I could imagine he would get ahead of schedule. So maybe you need to get in advance of him a bit more,
That's very true, Roger, because those productions are like freight trains. They just, once they get going, they don't stop.
Mm-hmm.
And you always had to be a couple days ahead. Some of the rigs on some of the Spielberg movies were definitely complicated, like especially Minority Report at the backlot of Warner Brothers was extremely large and some big builds.
Talk about that in a bit more in detail, because we watched it last night. I mean, it's really
not a great movie.
It's really interesting. There's obviously a lot of CG, but I mean, a lot of it must be for real. So that was a huge kind of set, really.
Yeah. That set was with Tom Cruise going up and down. We built a box truss rig across Hennessy Street that was about 80 feet tall, 250 feet long, had stairwells on either end, had retractable diffusions on the top, and it had a couple 1,000 feet of I-beam and trolley for the stunt guys to attach to it to fly Tom Cruise up and down as he's evading the pre-crime guys. Well, that movie does hold up too, isn't it? Still good. It's like such a good film to watch.
Yeah.
So, that was like that was like $1 million rig out there at the backlot of Warner Brothers for that. And I mean, but it takes a big family to do these things, and a lot of people with imagination and a lot of creativity to like pull off some of these things. I'd love to say it was just me, but no. I mean, it's like some of these production designers and art directors I've worked with over the years, I mean, some of the stuff they've come up with, it's like, wow, it's just insane and pretty remarkable, I might add.
On a set like that, I mean, you're doing the rigging, but do you stay while the shooting crew appear just to make sure everything you've done, they understand what you've done and why you've done it in a certain way?
Well, in that particular one, there was a small army of riggers that stayed with that to take the diffusions in and out, to babysit that set, which was, a serious, I mean, you could get yourself in trouble pretty quickly with some safety issues if we didn't leave some riggers there to monitor everything. But I mean, sometimes you just hand it off. I mean, it depends on sometimes who the key grip is. Like if Mitch Lillian's the kind of guy where he doesn't want his riggers around the set at all, because When he takes over a set, that's his set. He's going to control it. But on other jobs with some other key grips, we've kept riggers there the whole time to, help them out and assist and so forth. So it's always different.
Mm. And how do you interface with the electrical department? Because as I always say to Mitch, in the UK, there are no grips. The electricians, the gaffers basically doing all of it.
Well, I've been around the US system, obviously, a lot more than I've been around the European system. I work directly as a rigging key grip with the rigging gaffer. And, that's a relationship that's got to be good, or just it's not going to be a pleasant experience. So most of the rigging gaffers I've worked with are incredibly intelligent, smart, effective, efficient. And like on a bunch of the shows that we did together, when Randy was your gaffer, he had Chris Napolitano as his rigger. Boy, that guy, he can make you laugh. Having fun is really part of this thing.
Yeah.
And I would imagine you have to negotiate a lot with production about the amount of crew you need, because in a way you're going ahead and production's always focusing on what we're shooting then. So for you to say you need a lot of guys, it's like, why? We're not shooting that day, that kind of thing. Do you have to negotiate?
Yeah, a lot of that's done in prep, where you present, spreadsheets with charts and mandate calendars, and and the smart ones out there, like Cameron with Kitchell and Graf, the smart one, the smart ones out there will, they hired you for a reason. They're going to trust what you think it takes to do the job. But there's others out there who, think they have a better idea and better plan, and it's usually, well, I hate to say, it's usually not the case. I'll give an example of, like, when we were doing Hail Caesar, we were down at Sony, and it was the water scene, and we had the submarine in the tank and all that crazy stuff. We had rigging crews working 24/7 to get that ready, and that's something that doesn't usually happen. But it's good that we did, because everybody. I think we came in there like 2 days early, and literally, I'm correct in saying it was probably 2 days before we started shooting that, and that's a big investment in that tank there. It was Bob Graff who came by the set and was looking around and pointed out to me, something I should have seen, and I didn't. You had asked for this massive white single bobbinet net to be behind one of the backings, and we got it. We installed it. We put it up, and if this thing's 40 feet tall and 200 feet long, which is about the size it was, when they sew that rag, it's always sewn the long way, because you're doing less stitching as opposed to vertically. So we put this thing up, and it had all these tiny little vertical lines going through it. It had the horizontal lines because it was sewn that way. And it was Graff. It was Graff who pointed out to me, he goes, "What about those little lines going that way?" I was like, "Oh, yeah." He was like, "Roger's not going to like that." So literally, we thank goodness we had a night crew working, because we took that rag down, had it sent back to the sewing room, and had it resewn in less than 24 hours and put back up with the vertical lines.
Oh, wow.
So you wouldn't have seen them. So.
I never knew that one.
No.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I guess I was too obsessed with, because there were two sort of scenes in the same stage, right?
Yep.
With the pond, and one was the swimming sequence, and the other was the submarine. But the one, all the green beds had to be turned around and put in a different kind of pattern from the swimming to the submarine. I think it was that order.
Yeah.
But I was kind of not only obsessed about getting it done, but I guess about the period nature, because in some shots we wanted to look straight at the rig. So tell us about that. Was that easy to get green beds, and was that sort of an unusual thing to do in the more recent sort of way films are made?
Well,
because at one time that was a norm, wasn't it? You would surround a set with green beds, and that would just give the cinematographer options.
Well, way back in the day, they would usually put the green. If you really planned the job out, you would put the green beds up and build a set underneath it. And that started going away. And then you put the green beds, which, in case somebody doesn't know what a green bed is, it's about a 4x10 walking platform that you fly in a stage to, light around. But by the time we got to Hail Caesar, you're right, the green beds were starting to be phased out. People weren't using them anymore. But Sony had thousands of feet of green beds available. And we got them all installed. I think you had about 100 big eye 10Ks up on that rig. That was
I did for the swimming scene.
yeah. That was wild. I haven't seen that much. Haven't seen that much 4-aught, and that stage gets so hot in a long time.
They're all in shot at one point as well, which I was quite pleased with, really. But
yeah, that was. I thought
that was something. I thought the rig for the night submarine was the most interesting one in my mind, because the way the green beds went in were very specific for the lights that I wanted to use at certain angles on the backing, but also on the submarine. And for each shot, I would change one light in direction to another as the camera changed angles. So it was all quite specific. Again, was that an unusual sort of rig for you?
Maybe not this. No, well, I wouldn't call it unusual. I would just call it, again, with, you're very specific about what you want, but some people aren't. And it's pretty easy to follow your roadmap and then adjust it, to do things that make a little more sense on the day. But yeah, that's putting 110 big eye 10Ks for the swimming scene. I'd call that somewhat unusual. Yeah. But really kind of like, how else are you going to accomplish what got accomplished in there? And also the submarine in that tank too. I always thought that what made that work so well was the old school scenic backing, painted backing behind that thing. Yeah. That gray and black backing. Yeah. I mean, I still have pictures of that. I look at once in a while and just go, that is a really cool set.
Yeah, it was great. Even though there was CG extensions of it, it was there. The kind of look of it was all established in camera, and it was just a matter of touching it up in the computer. Yeah.
And what about the big dance scene where the whole floor was moving? And
that was fun too. Yeah. Do you remember doing that one? Because it was a kind of truss for the lighting rig, which was kind of similar to what you did for us on Blade Runner in Budapest, right?
It was, but I mean, the Hail Caesar one was pretty interesting with the dance scene with Stockard Channing and the set was flying in and out. Mm-hmm. That was really cool because, I mean, all the green beds and all that, everything was in shot. So it all had to be vintage. So the rigging grips literally became the set decorators of that set to a certain, I mean, we would go out and get stuff for Nancy Haig and put it up there. And, we even had a bunch of actual grips in that scene operating the dollies and stuff like that. So, that was the precursor to Wallace's Office, no doubt, to go from Hail Caesar to Blade Runner. And Wallace's Office, boy, that was something. That was like, talk about an onion. That was an onion. That was just one layer. It just never stopped coming, the layers and the pieces of that thing.
Yeah. Part of the problem with that was the set, because you couldn't really put the lighting up while the set was in place because most of it was water. so the lighting had to be kind of pre-rigged, really.
Yeah.
I remember on that, again, working abroad, especially that particular film, working in Budapest. I mean, there were great local crew members, but they weren't really as knowledgeable and as kind of experienced as working as grips as you might have with your team in LA. How do you deal with that? How did you deal with that on Munich as well? I mean, how many people do you take?
And we also found that when they built something, they built it sort of for real. They were using lumber from barn doors, big, heavy.
Yeah, everything was over scale.
As opposed to think of it, forget wild walls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Blade Runner was my second pass through Budapest and Hungary. So I felt like I had a little experience in there. And yeah, same thing back even on Munich. The way they built sets there is they take raw 6x6. It's not cleaned up at all. And they just run everything through a massive bandsaw. And I mean, you could throw a cow in that bandsaw and it wouldn't stop. I mean, that's, but yeah, the sets they're definitely overbuilt. I mean, but they use those are the tools that they have there for building them. And I would have to say, like the Wallace's Office, that was wild. the layers of lights and the circles and the teasers attached to each one on separate motors. I mean, it was really intricate, but I think at the end of the day, it really shows because you were trying to figure out how to do those caustics, and my memory serves me correct that one of the most creative and genius things probably came out of the effects guys with their RF controlled boats. They would take take a mid-range speaker and attach it to the boat and drive it through the water and pump Pink Floyd through it to create the correct bounce of the water. I mean, it was who thinks of stuff like that?
That was kind of wild because they started doing that on a set previously where Love is walking down the stairs and the lights projected through the ceiling pond and the glass, and they started doing it with this little kind of motor boat and stuff. And I said, why don't you just use your hand? So they took the boat away and they just wafted their hand in the water, and it was perfect. But when they came to Wallace's, they insisted on getting their motorboat out.
It was. I believe they were pumping Dark Side of the Moon through the mid-range speakers into the water.
It was really consistent, not very easy to record sound though, some of the fun of kind of making that sort of thing work. And
see that for me, that show was, I mean, I've never in my life, I mean, I've done big movies and small movies and stuff, but never did I ever deal with so much light and water and reflection as that movie. And I learned a lot. I mean, let me ask you, who puts a 20K sky pan on a techno crane and flies it around 50 feet in the air? You did.
That was kind of fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I was teased Billy. Well, that was Billy O'Leary, the gaffer, because he found them in Barbizon in New York. They had these 24K tungsten globes, and they had like half a dozen of them or something. So he said, well, especially when we did the sequence with the sort of like Egyptian style stairs going down to the replica museum or whatever it was, and I wanted the kind of light, like a sunlight, to pass across the staircases, and he came up with these bulbs. From New York.
He had Richie Ford had to rewire all those lights to accept them because they draw twice as many amps. But I mean that was wild, putting a 20K sky pan on a crane, and that's all the techno crane. That's all it was for the lighting gag. It's like that was cool. You hit the big time when you hit the big time when you have a techno crane with a light on it like that.
Hey, come on, it's a single bare bulb. It's nothing very complicated.
No, it's not.
But that's what's so funny.
It's funny, what are the most challenging rigs? Are they something like that working out how to do that sunlight pattern in Wallace's office on the walls, with the little half circles of T12s? Or is it some big set like on Minority Report where you've got this huge kind of it's a huge challenge to do that.
Everything's doable if you have the manpower, the money, and the time. You have those three ingredients, you can do anything. It's you get stumped sometimes with because it's a whole team effort. Like if a location manager isn't supporting you and saying you need to do this as opposed to just protecting a location, that's something that happens once in a while. And it's real important. The teamwork aspect is probably the most important thing, and whether it's a small or even a big rig, it takes every person in every department giving it their all and not being a roadblock. And there's some roadblocks out there, no doubt.
What do you prefer? Do you prefer working on a stage, a stage set, or do you like location work, or is it just you like going between the different challenges?
Well, I mean, stage work is, it creates that controlled environment, as you know, which sometimes is good, yet sometimes bad. The challenges of location work are fun also. But I would say, like, later in my career, I started preferring a lot more of the stage work, mostly because I built my company around rigging components that a lot of them are used on stage. Like, I built my rigging company with Kevin Fady, and we've got, a lot of chain motors. So that's something you don't normally use very often on a location unless it's a unique situation. So, maybe from a self-serving point of view, I started liking a little more of the stage work.
Well, there's something about stage work, though, too, is things seem more controllable. If you're on location, things can change on location, or you can't leave things sometimes on a location. But a stage is yours, and I always feel like it's more controllable, and so I like it. But
Yeah. I was gonna bring one thing up was I always look back at because I was looking at some of the movies that we did together, and Intolerable Cruelty. That was a good little ride there. I always look back at that one and laugh pretty hard.
Yeah, that was fun film to shoot. Yeah.
And one thing, because we're talking rigs here too, is like the one thing concept that you had for that, which was, how are we going to do this? It was like, we had to put 3 balloons across the PCH. And do you remember that?
Yeah, I was forgetting that. Yes, yes.
Well, how do you shut down the PCH to rig balloons on it? Couldn't use lifts or this or that. So we came up with the concept of just a really simple rig to span between 2 light poles across the PCH. And we practiced with Napolitano, we practiced installing that rig for hours and hours on a stage, pretending it was the PCH.
Wow.
And they shut the PCH down for 6 minutes. That's what we had.
Is that all you had?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
They call it an ITC, intermittent traffic control. So they shut the PCH down for 6 minutes, and we put that rig up in 6 minutes. And that was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, I gotta say the balloons were to go above the street lights to augment the light that was coming off the natural street lights. I just wanted something to, a little extra punch. But I was lucky then because balloons were just becoming more commonly used. I hadn't used them much, but I think probably it was Chris said, why don't we put the balloons up?
Right, but we didn't put helium in them because we didn't need them to float. We just put compressed air in them because we put a hard rig up there for them to attach to.
Oh, yeah.
So
wow.
So there was a cost savings because that helium is pretty expensive.
Yeah, right.
I would say I like also on Intolerable. I just so I remember working in the courtroom, and I bring that up because little did I know that courtroom that we shot in. I mean, we had like a 14-foot ladder above the judge's desk, put stuff in the ceiling. That's the same courtroom I ended up in, and for when I got divorced. And I remember even telling the judge, I said, "I've stood right there."
No. Oh my God.
Yeah, kind of crazy to end up in the exact same room. So, yeah. I mean, the stories you get out of this business, they're unbelievable.
Yeah, wasn't it the courtroom downtown? Wasn't it the standing set as well? In a little space downtown, they had a courtroom set. But wasn't it there we set the sprinklers off?
Well, I've seen them get set off quite a few times, so that was probably
because I knew there were sprinklers there, and I think we set them off. But luckily, we'd finished shooting. So
I think that was like on Intolerable too. It was like shooting in the casinos and Caesars. That was always a huge concern with the sprinklers in there.
Yeah.
So
yeah. How much has changed with what you have to do? The way technology has changed. I mean, how much has changed because of the size of cameras, the speed of cameras? I mean, are the rigs different now? I remember when I first started, had to light for film, which was 100 ASA, and you didn't want to shoot wide open on the lens, all that stuff. I mean, nowadays it's quite different.
Well, the faster cameras, the camera rigs have definitely gotten smaller because you're not talking about 1,000-foot mag loads and all the other stuff, and you're doing smaller bodies, and so definitely the camera rigs have gotten smaller, and people are using, instead of 1.5-inch speed rail, they're using 5/8-inch aluminum rods and things like that. That's pretty creative. But regarding like lighting rigs, they seem to be getting bigger, if you ask me, not smaller. Bigger soft lights, just everything's big, you know?
Yeah, that's what it is, though, isn't it? It's bigger, soft sources. Without mentioning certain cinematographers, I know they sort of bust the budget on doing these great big soft sources.
Yeah, and
it's different.
Yeah,
but,
the crane rigs have gotten much bigger. Where like in Texas, we did on a show last year. We did a 60 by 100 off a crane, and 40 by 60 diffusions on 200-ton crane. It's pretty crazy to do one that big.
Wow.
Especially with the wind.
Was that as a fly swatter for the sun, or was that for a lighting rig?
It was just a diffusion over a set to kill the hard sun coming in. But
kill the sun. You find that's done a lot, is it? Because I the only time I've ever done that on the sunlight was actually on Oh Brother, where we put it over the part, the tank up at the exterior tank at Universal, which you did, I think, as well, which was quite a hell of a rig.
And if you recall, the diffusion actually got blown out of there during a windstorm and had to get reinstalled over the weekend. So that doesn't.
Yes, I remember, because there was you had a wind gauge, right? And everybody's looking at the wind gauge. It's not looking at what the camera's looking at. They're looking at the wind gauge. The wind gauge coming up. That's gonna blow. She's gonna blow. It's like being on a yacht.
But but at Falls Lake at Universal, it's not like it's not like that's a freak thing that happens. That wind comes up every afternoon at that place. It's a known thing. It just depends on how it hits a rig, particularly. But yeah, we managed to get that back up. But yeah, back to like the overheads. Some guys like to use a lot of the overhead frames. Some guys like to put solids on them and just kill the light completely. Some people do diffusion. One of the things we've been doing over the course of the last couple of years with those too is we stack the diffusions on a 40 by 60, so it's 3 different rags, so the wind actually goes through it. So there's 2 lower rags and 1 upper rag.
Mm-hmm.
So when you put it at an angle and the wind hits it, it's got a place to go.
Right.
But back to your
you've got to think.
I mean, the rigs, they're getting bigger. The lights are getting bigger. The budgets are the only thing getting smaller.
Well, isn't it also too that with so many visual effects? Well, first of all, they can do some of the lighting effects, I suppose, and visual effects, but also a lot of the background's going to be removed anyway, so you can put the rigs in places where you couldn't have put it before if you're going to get rid of that place anyway in visual effects. Is that true?
I don't see a lot of people really doing that. I mean, you still play, if you can do something without using effects, it's, if you can stick a crane somewhere and not have it in the shot, you would attempt to do that. But I haven't seen too many people just leave stuff in a frame saying, "Oh, we'll take it out later."
There are some people that do.
Yeah, there was a very well thought of film this year that they left not all the lights, but they left lights in shot just to be painted out later.
Which was funny because it just brought them so much over budget in the end. But that's, again, seeing the post budget as something different as the shooting budget.
That's true. Yeah.
I understand it when the light is representing a source, like we did in Jarhead.
Then again, you're using visual effects there too.
But it's kind of interesting. I don't know how much that's going on.
Well, and also some of the bigger rigs too. I was the rigging key a couple of years ago on Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we ended up in like a pit in LA for a bunch of the sets there. And boy, it just, that's a budget that just doesn't stop. Sometimes it's good to actually have a budget that controls you a little bit, because that thing, I mean, all of a sudden we've got like almost 30 by 30 frames on Gradalls with blue screens just driving everywhere, green screen and everything out. And, they had the money for it and they did it.
Wow.
Yeah.
But people do productions do that now so much? Blue screen and green screen? Because, I mean, the last things we've worked on, really, you just don't bother doing it because everything can be rotoscoped now.
Isn't it? I mean, I'm not as much into the visual effects as you guys have knowledge, but I mean, isn't the rotoscope dreadfully expensive, and that's something they try to avoid at all costs? I mean, we're still putting up
But AI is.
we're still putting up container walls and stuff like that with green and blue. I mean, that's still happening.
I think also if you have a character that has a lot of fine hair, that's really hard to rotoscope. And so you do need something behind for that. But I think that's one of the things that IA they're finding can do is rotoscope because it's just a manual job. But so for you, we saw Star Trek Into the Darkness just for you. And that must have been a lot of rigs there. And there was a lot of movement in there. They were constantly running. And you would think that a lot of that also, like maybe the warp core engine was put in afterwards. That's what I would think, but I don't know. But what were your biggest challenges for that movie?
Well, that was an interesting couple years of my life, actually, where it was around 2011, 2012, where I actually was not the rigging key grip on that. I was asked by Dan Mindel to be his shooting key grip. So I was I was a shooting key grip for about 4 years for Dan Mindel. Yeah, we did a bunch of movies together. Went to New York and did Spider-Man for 9 months. An Oliver Stone movie for 68 shooting days called Savages. But yeah, Star Trek was good. That was that was the one J.J. Abrams directed, and they were going to take that to Canada. It was J.J. who just wanted to stay home with his family and do the movie there. So they condensed the schedule a little bit. I mean, it was a challenge, that movie. I think one of the biggest rigs in that one was, and I think it was an American cinematographer at one point, was the flying rig for this conference room where the alien ship attacks the conference room. And that was that was literally a alien ship flying around with interactive lighting attached to it with 2 electricians in it on like these giant 6 winches that was completely computer controlled.
Wow.
One of the biggest challenges was to find, because we were limited on the amount of weight that could go on that rig. And that was the best boy, Kevin Fahey, who's worked with me, my business partner for years. He was the rigging key grip actually on Star Trek. But one of the biggest challenges when it all came down to putting that rig in there was it had to meet specific weight requirements for the winches to run. And they had to find electricians that weighed about 125 pounds. So I get my little jab in, on the electricians, but they found them.
That's funny. Do you like doing key gripping sometimes as opposed to rigging?
Well, that's
fun?
kind of a loaded question. I mean,
sorry. Is it?
No, well, just
okay. Why?
It just presents different challenges. Like I said earlier, the shooting concept of getting in that van and working for 15 hours it's not in my DNA. I mean, you can bring me chaos for 12 hours a day, but anything beyond that, it's just ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
I
noticed it was.
I had a great time with Dan, no doubt. He's an excellent, he's a great human being, great cinematographer to work with. But I needed to get going back to my rigging. So that's kind of what I did about 2015. I jumped back into doing rigging.
Yeah, you came on Sicario with us, I remember. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. See if I got any notes from that. Yeah. I like Sicario.
Yeah. One of our favorites, really.
That was definitely because I wrote a couple notes down here about some of the jobs that we were working on together. That was one of the simplest lighting setups I think I've seen you do, Roger. I think it was just basic and simple, and it was good. All that stage work and finding the bodies in the set. That was some good stuff.
Yeah, it was. It was very simple. It's kind of nice when people often comment they don't know that was a set. So that's kind of because it was very basic, wasn't it? We had a backing out there that was false perspective, and the exterior wasn't nearly as wide as the actual location, and it had to match and everything else. But yeah, that was That was good. I wanted to ask you, I forgot actually. When we did Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, you did the rig for us down in Vicksburg, didn't you? In the theater?
No, I never. I didn't go to Mississippi. I think that was Mitch probably had Jim Bonice. Jim Bonice was probably down there at the time with him.
Oh, Jim
Yeah.
Bonice, yeah. Oh, but I was just going to ask you because it was like there was a preservation order on the theater. You couldn't touch anything. Those sort of situations where you have to figure out a rig to go in that's not going to impose on a period building or a delicate location. I mean,
I think we had something like that on True Grit when we were at the courthouse in Blanco.
Oh yeah,
that was.
Oh yeah.
We had to go up into the rafters of that old courtroom. I don't think anybody had been in those rafters since it was built, and we extracted little. I mean, it was an old building, but it wasn't like there were people all over you about you can't touch this or do that. And also like on another note with regards to that, like for a rigging crew to, go into a location, give you an example, like Tina's gun shop from No Country for Old Men. We went into that place like 4 days before we shot. I mean, we're the advanced team. If we mess something up, it gets terrible for the shooting crew. So if you can believe it or not, the rigging grips are sometimes the diplomats going into a place and setting the tone.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
would be.
Yeah. I thought one of the other rigs that I was really impressed with, and I kind of wondered about it at the time, was when we did the night scenes on True Grit, and you did those platforms all around that hillside.
Oh yeah.
And how easy was it for you to convince production to do that? Because I must say, I was really nervous, the idea of doing more, because I was asking for so many lights to do that night work, because I wanted the option of turning one bank off and turning another bank on in the middle of a night so we could shoot different angles. And I was really concerned that amount of platforming on the side of a hill like that would really bust the budget, really.
Well, it's not that. I mean, that was like 4 flatbeds of steel decks that we brought out from Los Angeles, and we rigged zip lines to fly them down into the canyons, and each one of those decks had to get anchored into the ground. So
Right.
pound a Ford axle on the ground, strap those down, put the lights on, and have to strap those down because you're getting 60-mile-an-hour winds out there. Yeah, it was pretty wild, though. I mean, in the sense of, I remember prepping that with you, Roger, and you had an idea of what you wanted, and I drew it all out, figured out the amount of decks, presented it to production, and the decks came. We put them in place for the rigging electricians. I mean, they had to wait for us constantly there because we're digging out hillsides to level these things out. Like Mike DeCellis had no idea how to get his lights down to those decks. I remember he was asking us, how do we get our lights there? I'm like,
right.
Same way we got our decks there, haul them down there.
Right. But it was like the top of the bluff was so far from the nearest access point, wasn't it? I mean, just humping them all across the terrain to get them in place must have been. I'm glad I wasn't there.
Well, that's that's also a testament to some of those guys out in New Mexico who just love work.
Yeah.
Who love working outside like that and just digging out hillsides. And I mean, most of those guys out in New Mexico, are all set up with camelbacks on them. Like they can work out in those elements like for 8 straight hours. So that was really kind of cool to set up 85 18Ks for a night exterior. I got to say, people are still talking about that one.
I must say, when I came in with Chris on the free light, I was so impressed. And I realized then, of course, because I could walk by every lamp because I'm a great tweaker. So I could go by every lamp and sort of like fly it or spot it. And it was great.
What I thought was pretty impressive about something like that too was the fact that you could get 85 18Ks, which, they're HMIs, electronics, ballasts. Every single one of those lights worked. They didn't have one of them break down on them. I was just amazed at that.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
The only problem Chris had at one point was the amount of power that was lost because of the length of the cable run between where the generator could get in and where the rig was. But he solved that. Luckily, we had a pre-light.
Yeah, that was, I mean, that was a heck of a challenge for the cellists figuring out those, you had those massive Caterpillar generators, like 3 of them stashed around in specific places, and they had to be carved and dug into the ground so they didn't, the noise coming back and the echoes in the canyon. Was it San Cristobal Ranch? That was Greaser Bob's, if I'm correct in saying, right?
Yes, Greaser Bob's.
Yeah.
Greaser Bob's.
That was one of my favorite scenes because of the challenge, not only just sort of, I suppose, creatively thinking about it, but actually the whole technical challenge and everybody working together to work it out. And there it was. It was kind of amazing.
Yeah.
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 Very good.
Good.
How's business? How's business in LA? Everybody talks about, the film industry. I mean, how do you feel? How's it affecting you? How's it affecting grip people?
Well,
people who work as grips in the business.
Well, it's definitely slowed down. From a personal standpoint, I haven't rigged a movie in about 2.5, probably about 3 years now. The last one I did was Unfrosted, that Bill Pope was the cinematographer, and Tana was key grip on it. That was my swan song. I went into semi-retirement, and I built this rigging company with Kevin Fahey called CNC Studio Services, and we've seen a downturn. Like a lot, we opened up a shop in Atlanta, and we have one in Chicago also. But we went from like 16 full-time employees down to 8 or 9 at this point. But we're surviving. I mean, it's a testament to our tenacity to deal with these trying times. It's coming back though. It seems second and third quarter of this year are supposed to, we look in the pipeline at what's, happening, and we see some jobs coming back. It'd be better from a rigging perspective. It would be better if some of the bigger shows, the Marvels and the some of the Lucas projects, if those came back, because those are always heavy rigging shows.
Do you think that kind of work will come back to LA though?
I think it's got a better chance coming to LA than it does going back to Georgia. I mean, that's
Really?
Yeah. I mean, Georgia's positioned itself nicely there. I mean, they have great stages at Trilith and all the other stuff. Just there's no actors there. There's no, they're getting the infrastructure there, but I mean, it took hundreds of years to get it in LA. It's not going to just go away overnight. So
good. Well, we wish you well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah. Thank you for talking to us.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
I can't believe you've worked on so many movies, Charley.
Oh, thanks.
Incredible.
Thanks, Roger.
And such a range. Wonderful.
Yep. It's been a great career, and I will say getting my daughter into this business was quite a bit of fun now. And, she's pushing all on her local 600 career quite well. So.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
That's
well, it was nice to meet her. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, you guys. Hey, pleasure to see you, James. Roger.
Great. See you.
Much kindness to you guys. Bye.
Bye.
If you'd like to sponsor the Team Deakins podcast, let us know at pod@teamdeakins.com. Thanks for listening. If you want more information and further discussion, check out the forums at www.rogerdeakins.com. Becoming a member is free, and you can ask follow-up questions there. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast for more new questions and topics. Also, check us out on Instagram at team.deakins. See you next time.